All right, good evening. Again, my name is Megan Penley Pickett, and I am with the Heartland Institute, and thank you so much for joining me tonight for our live Kuder training. We did this training last month as well, and so there is a recording of that on the consultant site. This recording will also go on the consultant site, and then we are going to regroup and start coming up with a few training videos in short snippets that you all will then have access to, and you always have access to me to get on. Send me an email, set up a time to talk with me and say, hey, I just have some questions about the functionality of Kuder, or other things as well. So as I was saying earlier before I started recording, I will be sharing my screen with you and walking through some of the functionality with Kuder. Couple of things to think about as you are thinking about how am I going to use this? Why is this impactful for me? What do I need to know? Kuder is the platform that we utilize as coaches at the Heartland Institute. And so it is the online platform that keeps all of our assessments that we use with students. So when we're talking about those empirically based assessments, we're getting students to fill those out. We're having conversations about potential careers, potential college majors, where they might want to go to school, all of those things. This is the platform that we are talking about. And so, one, I think it's really great information for you all to have just a working knowledge of. At no point in time is it really going to be your responsibility to walk anyone through exactly how to use that. Once they are enrolled in the program, if they have some, specific questions, shoot it back to their coach. But sometimes students and families just say, they ask very simple, basic questions sometimes of, where do I find my assessment results? If you're able to answer that and kind of cut out the middleman of, hey, Coach Megan, can you tell the family, where that is? I think that makes a big difference. And I think that this is the most important part, that when you are talking with a group of people who are prospective clients, prospective families, when you are talking with individuals who are prospective families, it's really impactful to be able to walk them through what it looks like and what they can expect. And so as opposed to simply just saying and giving lip service to, this is a really great product, you can walk them through that. If you do not already have a consultant account, you can get a free consultant account, so you can go in there, play around, click around, take the assessments yourself so you have a working knowledge of it. At most, the assessments are going to take you 20 minutes. And then once you have that done, you're really able to go in and explore at your leisure. If someone's able to ask you a question or has a question for you, you can go in and figure that out kind of on your leisure time. If you do not have a consultant site set up yet, you can either, actually it's on the consultant. Let me start that sentence over. If you do not have a consultant login Kuder account, there's a couple of things that you can do. Probably the easiest and most streamlined way to do that is to log into your consultant portal, and up on the right-hand side is going to say Kuder account request or request Kuder account. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can go ahead and click on that. It's an online form. It's a JOT form. You just put your information in. That then gets shot to our office, and we'll go ahead and set you up, and somebody will get back to you within the next couple of business days. So if you're curious, want to go in, set up your own account, I encourage you to do that. I think it makes a big difference to have that working knowledge when you're working with families. So all of that front loading to say, that's just kind of the basis of what we're doing tonight. Again, we are in the process of looking at how can we break this down so you all can maybe get to some training videos easier. So when you have a question or when new folks come on, it's going to be a little bit easier than making this time zone switch work for everyone in the evenings. So before I jump into screen sharing and walking through, are there any specific questions, concerns, or something that you want me to cover tonight that I can take a note to be sure to cover. Everybody's muted as always, so if you want to unmute yourself, please go right ahead and do that. Just finishing up this. Okay. It is me on as the moderator tonight, so it's probably going to be easier to save your questions until the end. I say that because sometimes I get sidetracked. So do me a favor, if you have any questions, jot them down. You can put them in the chat line. I probably will not get to them until we're at the end of the presentation, but it may help you remember what your question was at that moment, and then I will read through the chat line and we can walk through those questions together. I don't want anybody to think I'm ignoring you, but it's a little bit difficult to kind of jump in and out from the chat line to the screen sharing. So I'm gonna do my very best. If it doesn't seem like you can see the screen that I am sharing with you as I'm walking through and doing some of those things. If it doesn't look like you can see the screen, unmute yourself and let me know that. We will figure that out. There may be a functionality piece, but I think I've got that down, so we will just kind of see. So with that being said, I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, so what you should all be seeing here is the home page. Up here, it's going to say, welcome, Megan. So for anybody who is thinking about this or concerned, this is my portal that I have created. I may look young, but I am not in the 9th grade. But this is my portal. So I'm not sharing any confidential information or anything from a student. This is all my information. So wanted to put that out there. So the way this works is when a student is enrolled in the program and then assigned a coach, within those first couple of days that a student is assigned a coach, that coach will reach out and say, hi, my name is Coach Megan or Coach Amy or Coach Paul or Coach Mark or Coach whomever. We have a wonderful, wonderful team of coaches. So they will reach out and introduce themselves. And typically at that point in time, they also will have set up the account for the student. So we go ahead and set up a student's Kuder account because that makes it a little more consistent for us as coaches to be able to assign consistent usernames, which is usually a combination of first name, last name, and year of birth. And then typically that password is going to be their cell phone number. So it makes it easy for the student to remember. It also makes it easy, for the coach to remember, when a student comes back and says, hey, I can't log in, I don't remember my contact information. So instead of having them go through, online support or something like that, resetting their passwords, I don't know about all of you, but I have to reset my passwords all the time and it's really frustrating. So we try to take that step out for students. And so in that welcome information from the coach, more likely than not, that student is also going to be getting their username, their password, and the, how to log in and what their next steps are. And so the first steps that are going to happen that users are asked to do, whoops, I gotta get on here, okay. I have already taken my assessment, so these right here where I'm kind of hovering over are already done. But for the first time a user logs in or until they complete their assessments, these will be blank and it will have a percentage on here, 0%, 12%, that type of thing. And then as you can see down here, it tells you the date it was completed. Sometimes it will give you the opportunity to retake it. I think that comes up after a year. Students or users can retake those assessments. And so again, they're going to take total, all three of these are going to take no more than 20 minutes for the user to go ahead and complete. So we want users to go and take some time to answer the questions. But it doesn't take that much time. So we want them to put the right amount of time into it, but we know that time is a precious commodity and we want them to take their time doing it. So what typically happens is they log in for the first time, they go ahead and they complete all of these assessments. And then this is what their homepage is going to look like. So there's a lot of information on this page. What I made the mistake of doing before is walking through what every button does. And I don't know about you, but it just about wore me out, and I think I put half of my audience to sleep. So I told myself I was not going to do that this time. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is that if you have not already gotten your Kuder account set up, go ahead, log into your consultant portal, put in the request to get set up so you can start playing around in here as well. If you do have a login for Kuder, go ahead and log in and start kind of playing around and seeing what different functionality this has. With it being your own profile, you know you're not going to mess anything up, so you can undo anything. It's not going to have any negative effect on anyone, including yourself. So it's kind of a safe place to go and see what type of functionality this has. So I'm going to go through some of the major highlights tonight. And if you haven't, and I do want to leave time for questions and answers, because I think that that makes the most impact on all of you. So I'm going to work down this left-hand side here, but I'm not going to go through every click. I don't think that that is overly effective. I want you to do some of the clicking, but let me start with that. So you've taken all of your assessments. All of that part of the work is done. Now it goes on to reviewing these assessments and starting to make some choices, starting to see what people like and what they don't like. What's really important to note, and we really try to tell our students and families this, you should do that as well when you are talking about this, either with your enrolled students and families or others. Regardless of what your assessment results are, users have access to all of the information on here. They're not, there's no hurdles for them to get to any of the career paths or occupations or anything like that. They have access to all of that. What these assessment results do is help filter that information that's on here and help the user get a place to start. So that's what we tell them. If somebody comes in and they're, you know, if you look at my results here, early childhood development, professional support services, I was like, I really want to be a doctor. That's really what I want to do. That's my assessment doesn't necessarily support that is maybe where my future lies. It doesn't mean that it doesn't, right? There's some different ways for us to go in and explore those careers as well. So just an important note. So over here on the left-hand side, this Explore Occupations has a number of ways to do this. And what I think is probably, this will be my last overview piece, because I think that it makes a difference. And so let me click on this really quick, this occupations suggested by national career clusters and pathways. And the way that this works is these are all, if you think about it like a triangle, at the top are these career clusters. And so here are the different clusters. So it's groups of different jobs put together. And so these are the different, so it goes from clusters to pathways to occupations. So you get more information as you drill down into that. So just something to keep in mind. Again, you're probably not going to have too much use for some of the ins and outs and some of these nitty-gritty details, but it is important to know what the language is. So I'm going to back out of that because I think that this is one of the more impactful clicks that you can make. So under this Explore Occupations, these are my occupations that are suggested by my assessment results. And so I have, you can see 18. And so these are what the students see after they take their assessments. So these are basically the occupations that are suggested to them based on how the user responds to the assessments. I had someone that I was talking to today that was asking, well, how do I get this values checked? So I realized this really does look like a to-do list over here. What's important to know about this interest, skills, and values side of the chart is These jobs are showing up based on I'm sorry, let me take a step back. These interests, skills, and values that's over here on the right, these are representative of the assessments that we took, right? Career interests, skills, and values. And so based on how I answered those assessments, how I responded, audio-visual comes up for me based on how I responded to interest and skills. And so what Kuder does is it prioritizes the job or the occupation suggestions based on the number of check marks that are over here. Again, it's not meant to be limiting. It's just a way to start filtering that information. So I have seen students and other users report where there's a number of assessment results that have all 3 boxes checked. But what's important to know is that nobody's missing anything. If this check isn't here under values, doesn't mean I have anything left to do. It just means this particular job didn't show up on the values side of things. So what's going to happen, and anytime you're looking at an occupation, whether it's through this click or if you're looking at occupations by title or some other ways to find these, the information you find once you click in it is going to look the same. So we'll just take this first one. You know what, I'm going to try a different one because I always choose that one. So I'm going to try labor relations specialist. I'll learn something new tonight along with you all. So each time you click on an occupation, this is the type of information that you are going to see for that particular occupation. So it gives you an overview of what the job is. Here are some quick facts down here with the salary. These are all based in the US. So that's important to know if we're working with students who are thinking about working abroad eventually. Maybe they're, once we kind of get up and running with it, maybe they're an international student or, you know, something along those lines. So just kind of remember that this is based on the US. Gives you the overview of the education. Here are some expected job openings over the next 10 years. And here's the national outlook. So the national outlook over the next 10 years is actually a decrease. Oh, and I think it's meant to say decrease because it's a negative 7.8. So doesn't mean I couldn't explore what this means. It does mean that there's less of a likelihood of there being a job or plentiful jobs for me when I graduate college. So here's your overview. These all are basically what they sound like. Here are the working conditions, what someone can expect in a labor relations job. This again is why it, you know, came up for me based on the way that I answered those questions. This is an interesting one that I really like, this education and experience, because what this does is if I'm interested in labor relations specialist, if I'm interested in this pathway, remember that second tier, career clusters to pathway to occupation, maybe I am interested in human resources management. You can see whatever is there in red. If you highlight it or if you hover over it, you get the little finger. It gives you the finger is what I call it. There's more information there. But what I really like about this education and experience piece is that it gives you suggested college majors. And so you can click on those. I'm going to do that at a later time because it becomes a wormhole for me here. But what happens is you can click on that and it starts giving you more information. So here are some other instructional programs, those types of things. So again, salary and outlook gives you a little bit more. I'm based in Colorado, and so everything that is going to come up brought by state is going to default to Colorado. I then have an opportunity to, you know, check out anywhere, you know, specific state if I want to change that. Gives you some more statistics, those types of things. And then lastly, what I think is really interesting is, okay, I saw that that had a decrease. Maybe it's pretty unlikely that there's going to be a job there. Let me look at related occupations. And so oftentimes there's going to be something in here. Clearly there isn't right now, and that's okay. But sometimes there's going to be some other jobs that are in there that you can click on and start getting that overview. And so I love this. It can get really overwhelming because there's so many things to click on, but what really makes a difference is, I'm just going to pop back out so we can see where we started with this. So if I really liked that labor relations specialist, see this over here on the left, there's this grayed out star. You're going to see those on a lot of different options. If this is something I think I want to continue looking at or do more research on, I'm going to make it a favorite. So I'm just going to click it and it's going to turn yellow and it comes up in my favorites later on. So it makes it easier, one, for me to go back and find the things that I really liked. You can just as easily unclick it, all done, no harm, no foul. It makes it easier for you to go back and do your research later. Makes it easier for a student to say, okay, hey coach, I've gone in and I've chosen some of my favorites. Can you tell me what you think? Or can we walk through this together? So then we can just go to the favorites. We don't have to sift through a lot of information. And parents and families can get mirrored accounts to their students' account. And so they can go in and see. I don't believe that they can make any changes to that, but they can get their own login that is then linked to a student's login. So they can go in and they can see the types of things that their students are interested in. So again, these are just some other ways for you to go in and look at the occupations suggested, again, by the clusters and the pathways. So again, you can see these stars are showing up here. So it just gives you some different ways to look at these and do some research. Occupations related to a college major. Let's see if it's going to go. Here we go. So this is more of, this is not going to be suggested for you, but again, we're looking specifically at occupations. So let's say I was an English major in college. So if I'm like, what jobs come up with an English, major? Here are some, oh good, 5 jobs. That was more than when I graduated college. So this makes me feel better. But then you can go in and again, click on it. You're going to get all of this overview information that I just walked through with that labor relations. So as much information as Kuder has on the different specific career jobs, occupations, then you're going to be able to get that information as well for each of those. The last one I want to show you again is occupations by title. This really comes in handy when a student or a user is looking for a job that may not have come up in their assessment. Again, that's okay, as long as that job or occupation is loaded into Kuder. And I think right now we have thousands and thousands. It was like 2,000 or something the last time I checked. This is a great place if you want to just pop something in. If you're like, it didn't come up, but I'm going to say I want to be a doctor. Great. It's going to give you all of the occupations that are connected to doctor. And so they can go in and check that out. Or if they know someone who is a civil, chemical, mechanical engineer, right, all together, they can type that in. It's going to give them some more options. So that's the major place. That's one of the very first places that we as coaches direct our students to. Because we start with the end in mind, if users have a working knowledge of the types of careers the career paths that they want to follow, we then can work back to exploring majors and then figuring out where the best place for that student to obtain that degree to get to that next career step is going to be. So we start with that end goal in mind. I am going to get to the explore majors and the plan for education piece, but I want to see, I'm going to stop sharing really quickly. I want to see what, if any, questions you all have on what I have explained so far. Again, you're muted, so I would love if you unmuted yourself. I guarantee if you have a question, someone else has that same question.
Good evening.
Hi, Simbo.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Um, my question is this. From the presentation you just made, what comes
Mhm.
to mind immediately is the number of people I know who are in college right now and still are undecided, don't know what they want to do, and
Mhm.
they're just going to college for the sake of going to college.
Sure.
Is this program geared towards them as well?
Yes.
Because now we just focus on high school students.
Yep.
And from what you have shown us this evening, I see this as a very valuable tool for the college students who don't know what they're doing. They're just taking classes and spending money in
Yep.
college.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question and a great point. We actually have a consultant who has really started focusing on those college students for that very reason. And I'm a former college administrator, so I'm like, talk to me about your college kids. Like, I love them. And you're absolutely right. And this is such a great place, such a great tool for either our non-traditional students, maybe people who are returning to college, as well as our college students who are in college, maybe still not sure, like you're saying, in college for the sake of college, or I'm going to start undecided and then I'm going to figure out from there, but they didn't. This is really a great tool for them. There are ways, right? There are ways to be able to change majors in college. You would really work with the coach. You could potentially work with the on-campus folks to say, okay, how can I get this done in the shortest amount of time so we're not adding extra time to that? But this absolutely works for our college students for sure, for sure. So that would be a great, that's almost I don't want to say it's an untapped market for Heartland for our consultants, but it's a less tapped market because, to your point, we really are focusing on 8th to 12th graders, which makes perfect sense. But if we have some of those college students who really are trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I want to be in college. I'm not sure what to do next or what my end goal really and truly is. This is a great, great place for them to be. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, concerns, comments?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Hi. You mentioned that the Kuder website, we can do a mirrored account as a parent and as a consultant. And how do we do that?
Yes, as a consultant, you can get your own account. And in the consultant team site, you can go ahead and up on the right-hand side of the consultant team site, there's a place for you, there's a form. Sorry, my brain is going much faster than it should be. In the consultant team site, there is a place where it says request Kuder account setup. You just click on that and fill out a very short form. Someone in our office will set you up with a Kuder account, get you your information, and then you'll be able to go in and have access to this for yourself. So you can start figuring out the functionality of it as well as sharing it with prospective clients.
And then you say that because I'm also a parent too, my daughter have signed up for this program, and then the mirror account, what from my understanding is I can log in and see what she choose for her,
Yes.
her assessment and all that. Is that what you mean?
Yes, you can do that. I haven't done that for a little bit, so I am not going to venture on how exactly to do that tonight. What I would say is if we do have any parents that are on here, I know the functionality exists. If we do have parents on here who are interested in that, shoot an email over to your coach that you're working with specifically, and they can walk you through how to do that. There is also a way for a student to invite the parent to, or anyone to be able to log in and not make changes. But I would work directly with your coach on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Other things I can address before we move on? Okay. So I'm going to go back into sharing. What time are we at? Okay. So I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker because these next sections, again, it's going to make much more of an impact when you're in there kind of reviewing and looking at that. These occupations really are where people spend a lot of time. And then the next place that they are going to spend their time is exploring majors. So much like we were with our exploring occupations, there are majors that are suggested by assessment results. And so these are college majors, right? Completion of a 4-year degree. And so again, this is going to look a little similar to you, but these are the majors that are suggested to me based on how I responded to the assessments that I took. And so I'm just going to go through one. They're all, again, going to look, they're going to have the same functionality, but I'm going to choose this public applied history. So it gives you an overview of what that major is. And then here's what I think is really interesting. And this is why I didn't do it before up in the Explore Occupations. So if you remember, in the Explore Occupations, when you click on an occupation, one of the tabs there says Education and Experience. And you're going to click on that, and it's going to give you the suggested majors. So we walked through that. And when you click on one of those suggested majors, it's going to bring you to a page that looks like this. So much like anytime you're exploring occupations, the back end of it's going to give you the same functionality. Same thing is true for the majors. And so here's the overview of the major. Then you're going to want to click on schools offering this major. Again, oh good, I can't go to school for this in Colorado. But I bet I could maybe in Indiana, Goshen, Indiana. I'm from Indiana. And so this does not have absolutely every single college or university in the US in here, but it does have a majority of them. And this public or applied history, that seems like a pretty niche major. But if I'm looking at that and I'm like, that seems really interesting. I may not want to move to Goshen, Indiana. Let me tell you, I don't want to move to Goshen, Indiana. But I'm really interested in that. So this gives me a place to start. I then can maybe pop out and do an internet search, or I can say to my coach, hey, I'm really interested in this public applied history. What more can we find out? So it gives a really good basis for those conversations. So let's just pretend we wanted to look at Goshen College. This gives you a brief overview of the college. I always tell people that if you are looking at it, and this seems like something that you are really interested in, look at the information on here, start seeing if it looks like something you are interested in. And if it is, go directly to their website. Often their websites are on here. You're going to want to make sure to verify all of this information. Just because when different systems are talking to each other, sometimes one doesn't get updated with maybe the most up-to-date demographics or financial aid or those types of things. So, so that is the Explore Majors. So again, there's a lot of different ways to explore majors. And so I'm not going to go into all of those because they look similar. We're just getting at it in a different way. So it's a lot of information for users to go through. We, again, walk students through it in a sequence, right? We really want to start focusing on that. And we can do it parallel, but we really want to start focusing on that career path idea first, getting an idea of that, and then seeing where the college major comes into it, and then seeing, okay, what type of college or university are we looking for? And so this is, again, a very rich site that has a lot of information on it. And so we want to be able to make sure that we sequence it for students. Obviously, they can pop back and forth. They can go, again, I really like Goshen, right? I'm going to save it to my favorites. Or I'm going to say, it's something I want to look into. Let me favorite it, right? It's just as easy to unfavorite it. I don't know if unfavorite is a verb, but that is how I use it. Okay, so that's the Explore Majors piece of it. Some of the things that are under this plan for education. This options after high school, this gives a few different options for students. Four-year college or university, I'm going to work from the bottom up. A community college or technical school, training or apprenticeship, military, or go straight into the workforce. So if students are curious what these paths look like, they can, you know, click on that and they can get some more information to see what is out there. This is always interesting. Did it work? Here we go. Again, these are the two that I have chosen to star, and so it's going to pull those together. So as we start narrowing them down, clicking on favorites, it makes it a little bit easier to access that information. Find schools. So this is basically every university that is in Kuder in my state. So, you know, where it is, those types of things. I'm like, oh, what's out there? So you can go in and here's your filter options. You can start changing any of that, right? You can put any, so it's going to bring up all of the universities that are there, the types of degrees, those types of things. So it gives you ways to filter that information. This gives you some information on thinking through the SAT and ACT, a little like 101 type stuff on financial aid. And so this really, really makes a difference. It's a lot of really good information for people to read through, takes you to some out of Kuder sites. So it's something that we encourage people to look at and to read to educate themselves. Financial aid is one of those biggest questions that people have. I know that they have when they come to you all. Search for scholarships and grants. This is a way to do that. Again, you're going to use the filter option, those types of things. And this is just one of the clearinghouse sites that we suggest using. This Finance 101, again, good information to have and for people to start thinking through. What is this one? This plan for work really is helping students. It gives them some resources on thinking through what might a job application, you know, at Starbucks or a preschool or something along those lines, what would that look like? So they can start getting an idea of what materials they need to get together and figure that part out. It also goes through looking at what does an interview look like, what are some do's and don'ts and some different questions. And so then one of the last things that I want to talk about, and again, because I want to leave time for questions and answers, excuse me, I want, again, I want you to make sure you get some time later on to go in and click on these. But these are all the portfolio items. These are all of the pieces that then get personalized to the user. So these are the assessments. If you have external assessments, I haven't used this very much, but some other ones we can pull those in, so it kind of synthesizes that. My job search tool, this is where we have students who don't have a resume. They can start building a resume template in here. Same for cover letters, references, those types of things. So as students are aging up into, specifically into scholarship applications as well as college and university applications, we have them put their things in here if they don't have a separate document. But it's even something with my freshman and sophomore students that we're starting, because it's much easier to load that information in here now than to try to remember, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years. This is where you're going to see your favorites. Anything that you have favorited or marked as a favorite is going to show up under its category. So again, as you start going through, as each user starts going through, reviewing, researching in the different categories, this is an easier place for them to go to and not say, oh, was that labor relations? Was it human resources? What was that job that I really liked? It's going to be in here. And so then these are just some other things, again, depending upon how much a student wants to use it, that they're able to. But it's really these first few up here. the Explore Occupations majors, and then planning for education. Those are the major pieces that people use in Kuder. And so it really makes, but again, they have access to all of it. So depending upon how long a student or a user is in the program, they'll get more information from their coach throughout the program. So I am going to stop sharing there. So that's the basic overview. Like I said, it's a lot of talking at you, and I appreciate you all sticking with me. For those of you who are joining us and maybe missed portions of what we started talking about in the beginning, this is being recorded. It will be loaded on the the consultant team site. You will have access to that in the next couple of days. We also did a recorded session last month, and so that is on there as well if you're looking for some resources later on. So I think that covers the basics. There's a lot in here, and so it depends on how much the user wants to use it, how engaged they are with technology, those types of things. But it really, because there's so much functionality in it, it really can be a very powerful leveraging tool for you all as you are thinking about building your client base, taking them from being, converting them from being prospective to enrolled folks that are in the program. This really can be an impactful tool. So what questions, concerns, comments can I address for folks tonight? I think that what we will start doing is, over the next couple of months, we are hopefully going to be creating a few shorter version training videos that are going to go over the different, like kind of those chunks of information that I broke it out into, but then it's not 45 minutes or an hour of your time at a specific time that you can go in and access that information. What did she say on that, and how do we do? So we're working with the organization to see what we can provide for all of you on that. So if you have ideas, if you have any thoughts or anything along those lines, I would love to hear it. Resources are only as good as the people who can use them. And what I mean by that is that I can sit here and think, oh, this would be a really great resource. But if it's not something that you all would use, or don't prefer it in that format, I'm open to that feedback before we move down that path. So, what questions can I answer for folks on Kuder?
Megan, it's me again.
Hello, me again.
We have options for after high school.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that includes not going to college.
Right.
Because not everybody wants to go to college, or not everybody values college.
Right.
In that case, how beneficial really is our program for such people?
That's a great question. And here's my answer is that I still think that it's very, very valuable, because in a paradigm that you've set up there, and I think a lot of people think about it like that, if I'm not going to college, then I don't need any help. Well, we still want to figure out what you're going to do next. Is it a technical school? Is it a trade school? Is it military? Is it military maybe after college? I'm working with some students on that right now. What are the next steps, right? So we don't want to just say, well, if students don't want to go to college, then there are pieces of our program that may not make sense, right? Then we don't have to figure out how to pay for college. Hallelujah. But we do want to figure out what to do next, and what type of education does that take? more likely than not, there's going to be some type of training or education there. How do we do that research in the same way that we do for college and university, and really helping students work through that. And then, because I am also a life coach and work with people on those types of things, having those conversations with students so they are prepared, they can articulate why they are choosing that path, what about that path makes a difference to them, so they can articulate it when people are asking them, what are you going to do next and why? So I think that there is a lot of value in the research part of that, in the figuring out what they want to do. Does it require a degree? Maybe it's an associate's degree, maybe it's a trade certificate, that type of thing. So that would be my short and long answer on that.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
My second question is this. Let me see what I wrote down. Okay, student's resume.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of it? Because my daughter actually never wrote a resume, you know?
Oh, really?
No, she didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that works. What we see, one, eventually people are going to need a resume. At some point in time, they're going to need a resume for a job, for an application, for something. So the earlier we start that, it seems to be easier. Resumes are a very personal document. Having been a hiring manager for 15 years, I saw all kinds of different formats that came in. And I've written a number myself, right? And so the earlier we can start that, I think it's really, really beneficial. We do see that oftentimes for scholarship applications, not for everything, nothing is a blanket statement, but oftentimes for scholarship applications, students are being asked to send that in. If they're sometimes with college applications, dependent upon the application process, they may be asked to do it there. If they're looking for, you know, a job, maybe they're not being asked for a resume, but maybe it helps them to fill in those job applications, that types of thing. So it's really one of those life skill pieces that may be applicable, you know, while they're in high school and college. And if it happens that it's not applicable to them, it is a life skill that they are building. More likely than not, at some point in time, they're going to be writing a resume.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I've always hated writing resumes.
Oh, me too. Me too. I left a job one time that I'd been at for a really long time, and I took all my files except the file that had my 20 resumes on there that I had built up over the last few years. And it was devastating to me. And I'm like, I got to start over. This is horrible. But yeah, but then once you get it done, you can massage it. But it's really that initial creation that just is paralyzing to folks.
Yeah. For me, it's been ages since I wrote one, and I don't anticipate writing one ever again. Yeah, I love being self-employed. I don't want to have to answer to anybody.
Sister, I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. For sure. What else is going on out there that I can answer for folks or clarify as it comes to Kuder, how to use it or a functionality piece? Okay. Well, then I am going to wrap it up. As a reminder, this is recorded, which is always fun to go back and listen to myself later on. It will be on the Team Consultant site. And so go ahead and check over the next couple of days. There is one from last month, so it's still relevant information. Nothing has changed since then. So there is a question on there about scholarships. So again, Kuder does have functionality for the user to go in, apply different filters, some demographic filters, some location filters, those types of things. And any scholarships that have been loaded into Kuder, it's going to populate for them. So this is one of the suggested sites that we work with students and families on for looking for scholarships. And in addition to MyScholly and scholarships.com and some of those other ones. So it has the same functionality as those, but because you're already in here looking at jobs and majors and schools, it's a place that you're already familiar with and can keep that. So we do suggest that users utilize the scholarships functionality to at least begin their search. So great question. Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, thank you so very much for being a part of this webinar tonight. I'm always excited to have people on and people asking questions. So again, keep in mind that we may be doing this a little bit differently over the next couple of months. If you have thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions about that, shoot me an email at megan.pickett@hyphe-usa.org. So it's megan.pickett. You can send me an email on that and I will take that into account. So thank you all so very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week and enjoy the rest of, I guess, week, summer, however you are marking time right now. Have a good night. Thanks all.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.